We know that it takes many years for people to stabilize after they have lost everything following abuse. And so we need to make sure that we have the ability to help them with that. We also have a men's engagement program that also has a full continuum of services. So we have groups for male-identified folks who are struggling with using abuse and violence in their relationships.
Today, we're joined by Anna Harper, the new CEO of Emerge Center Against Domestic Abuse. For 50 years, Emerge has been Tucson's frontline support for survivors, offering shelter, crisis service, and advocacy. Anna's been with the organization since 2009, helping shape its strategy and equity work, and now she's leading it into the next chapter. So Anna, welcome to Life Along the Streetcar.
Thank you for having me here. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're going to talk about Emerge and your success over 50 years, but I need to know about you. Because you've been with the organization for a while, but you just stepped into a new role.
Yes.
Excited?
Yes. Yes, that's one word for it. That is one word for it. It's been the last 9 months. We are going into my 9th month here as CEO. Have been quite the adventure. I just hit my 16th year with the organization last week, I believe.
And congratulations on that.
Thank you. And my 26th year in the work.
Okay.
So it's, as I've been reflecting leading up to our big event, I've been, just trying to think about what do I say about this really awesome experience and what it means to be here now in this role. And it's, sometimes there are no words.
I can only imagine the things that you see on a daily and regular basis that your organization is going through. But really quickly, what brought you to Emerge 16 years ago?
Sure. So it actually starts, a lot earlier than that. So Emerge is actually the merger between two longstanding organizations in this community.
Okay.
Tucson Centers for Women and Children and the Brewster Center had been in this community for some 30 years. And in 2008, they merged to become Emerge. And in the 90s, I worked at the Brewster Center right out of college, making a whopping $9 an hour as an advocate. And that's where I began. And prior to that, I had volunteered at our local rape crisis center. And so this work has been my life's work. It is my heart's work. And I didn't know at the time, but when I got to the Brewster Center, I found a community of people who really, poured into me and helped me to see what was possible. And as I learned more and of course listened to the stories of the people that were coming to us for help, I began to really understand not just the complexity of individual people's stories, but the much bigger picture around what was happening in our community. And that just lit a fire in me that has grown. And most people that know me would say, that passion and that fire is what I think I am most known for. And it has served me and carried me all of these years. The work is not easy, but I really believe in the work. And I didn't set out 26 years ago to be a CEO. I've been saying that, and that sounds kind of maybe counterintuitive. I never wanted to be the CEO of Emerge. I wanted to do the work. I believe in the work.
Sure.
I care about survivors. I care about families who have been impacted by abuse. And that love and that passion is what has carried me here. And so in December, it was actually October, when Ed Sakwa announced that he was ready to transition out of his role. And he had been in the organization for some 15 years and had been the CEO for 12, and he was ready. Mm-hmm. He was ready to transition out. I wasn't really prepared for that. And it was a real scary thought, because I hadn't thought of myself as the CEO of Emerge. And I don't think it had quite registered for me what was coming for the organization in terms of funding challenges, right. And certainly all that has unfolded in our community since. There's been a lot of really difficult cases, a lot of deaths as of late, and it has been quite challenging. It's been the hardest thing I've ever done. And initially, I'll be real honest, I kept thinking, why me? Why is this happening right now in this way? I'm new, I'm working real hard to learn everything that I need to learn so that I can be the best leader that I can be for this community, for this organization. And I know this isn't the normal transition that a CEO has, but it's real clear to me now about why it's me. This moment really requires someone who believes deeply in the work, because the way forward isn't clear. And we are going to climb the steepest hill we have ever climbed in terms of maintaining services, making sure we have the funding we need to continue, making sure that we are caring for survivors and their families. And we need that fire.
Yeah, and I can imagine a CEO coming in that's going to take months, the first 9 months, just to learn the organization and the impact.
Right.
When you're facing a challenge or challenges like you're facing, having that experience and knowing right out of the gate, you have to learn how to be a CEO, but you understand what the organization needs.
Right.
And someone who comes in that knows how to be a CEO and has to learn what the organization needs, that's going to take a little bit longer, and you don't really have the time for that right now.
Right.
So I think when you well, I'm just going to say it from my perspective, when I think about an organization like Emerge, I immediately think about crisis management. Mm-hmm. But that's a piece of what you do. But kind of what the organization in general, what are some of the aspects, you can kind of touch upon them, what are some of the aspects that as an organization you're dealing with in our community?
Sure. Yeah, so I think Emerge is most known for our shelter. When people think about Emerge, most often they think about our shelter. And we operate a confidential emergency shelter. And it's different from homeless shelters in that the people who come into our shelter are people who are most at risk of serious harm or at risk of being killed. We also operate a 24-hour hotline for the community. It's also the hub of our county's risk assessment protocol. So that's a protocol that law enforcement uses when they go out to the scene of a 911 call. They administer a risk assessment tool that it gives them some information about the potential risk in a person's situation, and then that activates a protocol that includes calling our hotline and trying to give that person access to immediate services. Mm-hmm. But we also have 2 offices in the community, and between our shelter and those offices in the community, we have a full range of support services. So that's everything from individual support sessions that can include safety planning, further risk assessment, case management, lay legal services or court support kinds of services. We also have family services for children who have been impacted by abuse and violence. We have housing stabilization services, and that's intended to help folks stabilize beyond the immediate crisis. We know that it takes many years for people to stabilize after they have lost everything following abuse, and so we need to make sure that we have the ability to help them with that. We also have a men's engagement program that also has a full continuum of services. So we have groups for male-identified folks who are struggling with using abuse and violence in their relationships. And those are really intensive groups where we're helping men with learning different models of addressing their feelings and conflict that don't include harming their partner or controlling their partner.
I had no idea that you were doing that.
Yeah. And then outside of that, we have a range of sort of like community engagement opportunities for men across the community that aren't those intensive group sessions, but they're dialogues. We offer groups in partnership with Goodwill of Southern Arizona. They have youth re-engagement centers across town, and we co-facilitate programming there so that we're reaching a younger demographic. Many of those young people are coming from homes where violence was happening. So we're trying to intervene in that cycle earlier. And their staff have been trained in our model, and we co-facilitate that programming. We also have a healing space for Black men. We have a call to action space where men are coming and learning about abuse and violence and then taking action in their community to address it. We have a clinic. We've launched the first helpline in the community for men to call when they're in a moment with their partner where they believe they might make an aggressive choice.
Wow. So this preemption of it, or the help with identifying within ourselves the anger and the rage. I didn't realize that someone might be open to that. I just assumed that the perpetrator was someone that they weren't interested in getting better, but you're finding that they are. Some are.
Right. Yeah. And I think, this idea that change is not possible, right, is a myth. And certainly there are people who are not ready right, for that. But when we started our men's education program, what we found was that the men who were attending our groups began to call. We have a cell phone in the program, and the men began to call that cell phone outside of, and it was after hours, weekends, outside of the time they were in group, and they were seeking support from the facilitators. They were trying to navigate moments with their partners because they knew they shouldn't do the thing that they wanted to do, but they couldn't quite get there on their own. And this model of having helplines was starting to pick up nationally. And there were a couple, there's a couple internationally, one in the UK and one in Colombia. And so we decided that we were going to launch one here locally in an effort to provide safety to survivors. We believe that that's a service to survivors. And if you provide the right conditions, if you provide accountability with support and compassion, right, without shame, without punitive kinds of responses, people will lean in and they will try. And it is worth the effort to accompany people through that process, because we know that not everyone who is harming their partner ends up in the criminal justice system. And we also know, research has shown us that arrest is not a deterrent for abuse and violence. It may be a helpful respite to a survivor so that they can make decisions about what might be next or what kinds of safety measures they need, especially in very high-risk situations. But in terms of long-term change and safety, the criminal justice system really isn't the answer. The solution really does have to come from community-based work. And so that's why, in the last 50 years, our work has evolved from what started as a very basic hotline out of someone's home into this full continuum of services and many different options across the community through different partnerships where people can access support services in many different forms. We know that people who are experiencing abuse aren't just coming to Emerge, but they're accessing help all over our community. So why not build a strategy where the work is embedded across our community and many different places?
But in Tucson, and I'm sure every city has their diverse population, but Tucson has several different types of communities, indigenous communities, Black communities, Hispanic communities, the white communities. They all experience this, but sometimes differently. And I think that's been what I read about you, is that equity was a big part of your push at Emerge since you've been there.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. A one-size-fits-all model has never served anyone, right? And we also know that people have varying experiences in the world. And when we talk about equity, when we talk about identity, we know that people's experiences with violence, people's experiences with accessing help, and utilizing more formal systems like law enforcement and courts, though all of those things are correlated. So if we're really going to design strategies that meet their needs and really address safety, then we have to consider those things. If we know that certain communities of people are less likely to trust in accessing court systems, we shouldn't push that as the primary source of safety. That doesn't make sense. Right? That's a real logical thing.
The one size fits all. It's not going. It's not going to work.
Right. And so and really what it comes back to is, really listening to what survivors need, what they say works, what they say is safest for them, and then designing our service lines and our approach to the work based on that. And certainly it's not perfect work, and we are always evolving and trying to do better. But I think that approach has helped us to really meet people's needs in a different way. And I think when we talk about safety, and we know, did I hit the microphone?
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. And we know that what's at stake in a lot of situations are people's lives.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we design strategies that address the real safety concerns and the real risk in their life? When we talk about things like gun violence, for example, which is one of the highest risk situations that someone can be in, where there is a gun or a firearm involved and abuse is happening, someone is 7 times more likely to lose their life. We must consider all of the research and information that we have about what is the safest way to help someone access safety. Like that is just a no-brainer for us. And if what the research tells us is certain communities, certain populations of folks are not likely to call the police, then let's design strategies that will engage them in resources that they will access, things that they will take part in. That ultimately is what the work is about. So when we talk about prevention, when we talk about intervention, those solutions have to be based on what people say they need.
Wow. I just think about someone's phone in their home 50 years ago, and the thought, the effort, the energy, as you said, the fire that has evolved this organization in our community. I feel like we should be talking so much more about what you're doing, but we're running low on time, and I need to talk about this huge event that's coming up because we're celebrating.
Yes, our big event.
We're celebrating.
Yes.
So we're this show is going to be airing on the 21st on Downtown Radio, and then on the 28th.
Yes,
right?
the 28th of September.
You've got a huge 50-year celebration talking about that evolution.
Yes. On Sunday, September 28th from 3 to 5, we invite the entire community to come and celebrate with us at the ASDB Burger Center. And we have I am so proud, and I don't want to give away all the details, but
Dang it, I thought I was going to get some
a lot of storytelling,
get some inside scoop here.
And what I'm most thrilled about is that many of the people who were a part of starting this work 50 years ago in 1975 have come back to help us plan and prepare this event. Their voices will be a part of the storytelling that the community will hear. Sue Clausen, who is the director at the Invisible Theater for many years. So Susan Malls is how they were known at the time, provided the entertainment at the opening of the center in 1975. And they are back and going to be providing the entertainment at our 50th year celebration.
That is fantastic.
And I am just thrilled about that. We also have, as I said, some storytelling from folks who over the years witnessed and were a part of the evolution of our work. We'll also be honoring some of our volunteers, community partners, and also and always uplifting and honoring survivors in our communities and families who have lost their loved ones. We'll be having a small reception after. So the program itself runs from 3 to 4, and then we'll have a reception from 4 to 5. Tickets are $50 each, of course, for the 50th. And when people go to register, you'll see on the registration page that there's an option to register without paying. And we certainly appreciate if folks can contribute to the cost of a ticket, but we don't want that cost to be prohibitive. And so there's an option to register without paying. We invite everyone to come and be a part of this celebration. It's meant for the community. And so we hope that everyone will join us.
Well, how do we find out more? Where do we get information?
You can go to our website at www.emergecenter.org.
All right. And are you on social media as well?
Yes. Emergecenter.org is our handle on most of the...
And we briefly talked before we got on the air. You're doing your own audio podcast.
Yes.
Where do people get that? Because that's intriguing to me, because this is like the day-to-day of what you're working through.
Yeah, it's called Liberation Through Love. It's our own little out of our conference room podcast. We usually post the episodes. They're available through our website.
Okay.
We've done a few episodes. We just posted one, or I think it's going to be going out if it's not already posted. Forgive me, I'm not sure if it's been posted, but we just recorded one that included some information about our 50th, but also our large Footsteps for Healing walk that's coming up October 18th, and it included a bunch of our community partners. So folks can find that on our website. Please do listen to it. It's that is also a labor of love for us, and just our way of sharing our work with the community.
I can imagine there's a lot of labor and a lot of love that goes into this.
Yeah.
Well, Anna, welcome to the role of CEO.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work you've been doing for 26 years in our community, and I look forward to hearing about the celebration on the 75th anniversary. What we're going to do for that. So
thank you so much for your partnership and sharing our work.
Well, thanks for joining us here on Life Along the Streetcar podcast, where Tucson's past, present, and future ride side by side. If you enjoyed today's journey, be sure to follow us on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/lifealongthestreetcar, and you can stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram with the same handles. Also, if you want to find out more episodes, photos, stories, information about our book, head over to our website, lifealongthestreetcar.org. Until next time, stay curious, Tucson.